3, 2. We are live, baby. How you doing, Tori? How you doing, Brenna?
Great.
I'm better now because I'm here with you guys. Before it was just me and the cat.
All right. So for those of you who are listening, we wanted to take the time to promote Tori Sparks. She's like my baby sister. She's going to be live this week at the I call it the MEAM, the European Modern Museum of Modern Art or something like that. And what in particular we would like to emphasize is, Tori, you're going to be at the MEAM again because you're doing all these concerts every year. We want to make sure that people come out. It's August 9th at 6 o'clock. It's at the museum, and they're really particular about people showing up on time, or they may not let you in, and they will mock you if you are late, in addition to that. So it's a great museum, and I'm going to go ahead and let Brenna lead the discussion. Tori, you're wonderful. I love your diva-ness, and I'm going to try to be quiet. I'll try to pipe down. Brenna, please take over. What questions do you have for Tori?
So one, I thought it's very interesting that this concert's in a museum because it's not somewhere that at least I would typically think a concert would be held. But yeah, so what inspired you to choose this venue? And why do you think it's important to have concerts in venues like this?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, because Barcelona used to be a city that was full of small to medium-sized music venues. It's one of the things that attracted me to the city and one of the reasons I wanted to move here. But especially since the pandemic, we've lost a bunch of venues. I mean, even before the pandemic, Rock Sound was a mythical venue here that closed. And then after the pandemic, we've lost 6 or 7. So these days, there honestly aren't that many places to see concerts in an intimate setting. And MEAM started these Friday Blues concert series, as well as they also do classical music concert series and all other kinds of styles as well. And I just think it's really cool when non-traditional spaces choose to promote live music, because they don't have to, they could just charge people to come see the art and that's it. So I'm really happy to participate in the concert series for that reason too, because these people are already going out of their way to support another form of the arts. When they are supporting the arts, that's their function, and then they're just going above and beyond. So for us, we're super happy to be there. The only thing is that I, even though I will dress elegantly, etc., I have a tendency to be kind of rock and roll in the band too. So I'm hoping the museum people don't get scared, but I think they'll have a good
time. Awesome, thanks.
All right.
So you recently had to take some time off from your music for some medical reasons, but now you're back and you're playing again. So how does it feel to be back, and how long did it take you to get back into the swing of things when you started to play again?
Yeah, it's interesting when you are playing a lot, when you're touring a lot, which I've been doing for pretty much my whole adult life. You really take it for granted, which maybe that sounds silly to some people, because it's like, how could you take for granted this? You're on stage, you're with people, you're with musicians, you're in front of people. And of course, you always love it, but almost anything can feel like you're going to the office after a while. If you play 30 shows in 30 days type thing, you just, okay, another show. And then when all of a sudden you just can't do it, it's like losing a part of your body or losing a person that you love. It's all of a sudden, that's when you suddenly realize, oh, I needed that arm, or I should have been really nice to that guy. It's like when someone or something is no longer there, and really music for a musician is part of their identity. So it feels like a loss. It feels like a death when all of a sudden you aren't able to produce music anymore. So it made me really reevaluate and really appreciate again, which had already happened during the pandemic, because even though I myself wasn't sick during the pandemic, we couldn't work then. And then I had my own personal pandemic for almost a year now, this past year. So it just makes you take stock and really appreciate every second on stage in any setting, especially with this fantastic band. And in my case, it's been about a year, like I said, that I've had these issues, and finally I'm mostly healthy again, but it's taken a whole year. So I always tell people who are other fellow musicians or other artists, if they're going through stuff and it's taken them some time to get back at it, just to be patient with themselves, because it's a long road, and you do eventually get back, just as long as you give yourself time, and you also rely on the support network you got around you, like Victor, like you, like Metropolitan, and people who support what we do,
Okay. Well, it's easy to support you because I've been going to your concerts forever.
I know, and you still come anyway. I don't know why. Thank you.
Look, you can see me with the hat. I love to wear the hat. And you see me, and you always kind of treat me with VIP service. And I'm always screaming, Tori, Tori, and Mama. And I yell out, I don't even know if you liked it. I yell out, songs that I know. And you may not have any intention of playing the songs that I want you to sing, because I have my favorites of yours with all the albums that we got.
But luckily, the thing is, you pick good songs, so thank you for that. Because it would be, if you pick songs from like 2007 that I don't even remember writing, that would be one thing. But you pick the ones we actually know, which is great. And I appreciate so much that you come to the shows and that you're excited, because people, Spanish and Catalan people aren't known for being like, exactly quiet or timid. But it's amazing how people, like, they don't want to be the one to ask for the encore. They don't know. And if you got a Victor in the audience going, woo, then all of a sudden they get, animado, and they feel like they can participate. So you help us out a lot. Yeah.
I do. Hey, a quick question. Do you see a square in the middle of your screen?
Well, I see three of us. We are each in a square. Is this a trick question?
No, never mind then. It's something weird on my computer. Anyway, go ahead, Brenna.
Yeah, so this concert you'll be primarily playing blues music, and you're also from Chicago. So I was just wondering, being from Chicago, how is it different? How is blues music perceived there, and how is it perceived here in Barcelona, having been here for so long?
Yeah, it's interesting because blues, jazz, flamenco, like certain styles of music, you get the puristas, like the purists, where they're like, blues is just this one thing, And then you get other people who say, well, no, Chicago blues is one thing, and then, Memphis blues is something else. And other people who think, blues is an evolving genre, which is what I happen to think that, I feel like you should know its history if you're going to be a part of the evolution of the genre. But other than that, I feel like it's something that's, dynamic, just like humanity is. But I do have to say, I find almost more purists. Yeah, I find more purists here than I did in the US, because I guess because it's kind of a specialized niche thing here. So the people who are blues fans, they're like hardcore, and a lot of them are very like, blues is this one thing. So I feel like that's part of my job here, living here, is to be like the annoying, American woman being like, nah, and just like throw off their game completely and explain to them, this is blues, not to educate them, not to pretend like I know more than them, but simply because I like the idea of being able to bring something to the local culture, and not just like come here and be like, feed me patatas bravas, no? Like give something back to the local community, which part of what I can bring is my musical experience, having come from this country, which spawned the blues, right? In the same way that I learned about rumba and flamenco from the people who are from here, I've been able to sort of not teach, but just, I guess, show, open up the world a bit to some of these hardcore blues fans as to the dynamism and the variety that does exist within the blues. Because here it tended to be, at least in my experience before, it tended to be a lot narrower, but they seem to be opening up over time, which is cool.
Very interesting to hear that. So you also perform flamenco music, and so how are blues and flamenco related, or are they just completely different, no similarities?
Well, it depends on who you ask, because some people would tell you that they have nothing in common, but I think they're really similar genres of music, because both came from populations of extremely poor, marginalized communities, people who had nothing and were just expressing their day-to-day lives, their suffering, their hopes, everything through music that in both cases it was kind of dissonant, kind of minor sounding, kind of sad sounding, but at the same time there's a lot of joy in both styles of music, and both are styles that you really have to sing with your whole heart or they just sound silly. So I feel like they're very close, actually, and what we do with the band is a mix of rock and flamenco fusion, so it all kind of mixes together, in a way that's organic and makes sense. And I end up again surprising the purista, the purist types, and they're like kind of mad that they like what we do. They're like, I guess it's pretty cool. I don't know. Fine, okay. I want a CD or two, but don't want one. So it's fun for me, and I never came here intending to incorporate flamenco into what we do, because of course, why would that occur to me? That would be like deciding to be a sushi chef, but it could happen, like whatever calls to your heart and whatever you feel, if you just kind of go with it, more often than not, you end up being able to incorporate it into what you do, and in our case, in an organic way, without me trying to be like a flamenco singer, because I'm not. I'm a blues singer, but you know, the guys are from here, so the influences of our two worlds coming together makes what we do.
All right, so I have a question for you, Tori.
Sure.
At the museum this Friday, as Brenna was saying, it's marketed as blues. But I also, when I went to the museum and spoke to the people there, wanted to learn more about what you're doing. They told me it was more, or they told me it was jazz. So is it blues? Is it jazz? Are you gonna be doing flamenco? You're gonna be doing whatever the heck you feel like doing? Because I know you break the rules, Tori. So what are you gonna be doing on Friday?
I do, but I in this case, I will also be breaking the rules, but I'm trying to do it like so that this one particular guy doesn't notice, to be totally honest. I don't think he's going to see this interview. So the guy who organizes the concerts, he has the best intentions in the world, and he's a huge fan of music. He's a huge blues fan specifically. And he had us play this concert series before, but like back in the day, I don't know, like 2018 or something like this, maybe. And he was super mad because he's like, this is not blues. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. And so I didn't think he would have us back, to be totally honest. But I saw he had some artists that were more jazz. I saw others that were more swing. I saw one artist, Jody Cash, who accompanied us at this benefit that we did back in March. She's country, you know? So I wrote him, I'm like, hey, Vicente, do you think maybe you could have us back again? I promise to try to make the set list mostly blues, okay? And he said yes. So I think they have expanded a bit, like their range of styles. But I did promise him I would try to make it mostly blues. That being said, we do have some songs that are not, so I hope he like isn't there for that part of the show. But I also feel like an artist has to represent what they represent, and I have never been, when I lived in Nashville, when I was in Chicago, when I was in Florida, I've never been somebody who does just like one style, and doesn't mean everybody has to like what we do by any means or be fans of ours, but I do think that artists are more interesting when they don't just do like the same song over and over again, you know? So to answer your question, it's supposed to be blues. Maybe that person at the museum was new and they just didn't know, but we're kind of doing a mix of everything, leaning towards the blues, so it's hopefully not to piss off the guy who's paying us, you know what I mean?
Tori does what she wants.
Yeah, well, music, I mean, you know, like I've always been kind of the good girl, sort of like the scholarship student and stuff, and the person who shows up on time, and I'll wash the dishes and I'll help the little lady across the street. And I believe in being like a upstanding citizen and trying not to hurt people's feelings and stuff. However, you know, we do play rock and roll. Like you can't just be like, it's all the time. You got to kind of be like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I kind of did, but I didn't. But don't try this at home, kids. You know, you got to be like the outlier to a point, because musicians and artists are the people that give other people permission to like kind of be a bit crazy and to try new things, right? That's our job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry, Brent, I keep bumping into your line of questions here.
All right. Well, there's only one more, so that's all right. And so, Tori, you've worked with Barcelona Metropolitan for many years now, and you do a lot of work about the local culture here in Barcelona. So just about that, how do you feel that independent presses like Barcelona Metropolitan are important for the local culture scene?
Well, I think most people, and I'm not going to say that I'm not one of these people, because of course we all are, but most people, they get super excited about being on like national television, right? Whether that's the US, whether it's Spain, wherever. You get super excited when you're in Rolling Stone, right? You get super excited when you play the big festival. And I, of course, am as well. But I've always really, really appreciated, like from the beginning of my career, small independent venues, independent press, because at the end of the day, you can't be on Rolling Stone every day. You're not going to be on national TV every day if you get there at all, right? So it's this independent kind of network, whether we're talking venues, whether we're talking press, that makes it possible for people like myself who aren't going to ever play like pop songs on top 40 radio. We're not going to play stadiums necessarily, but in order to sustain ourselves, in order to continue paying our people to have a project, to tour, to do stuff, we depend on independent press, and it's a huge service to the community. It's a service to me in a professional way and in a personal way as a fan of music, but the community too, like they learn about artists that they would never learn about normally if it was just left up to like the two major TV stations and a couple big newspapers, right? So I feel like Metropolitan is really important, as are its, you know, compañeros in the Spanish-speaking world, but especially in the case of Metropolitan here, because it's the only magazine, like long-running culture magazine in English that the city has, and the city is a very multilingual, multicultural city. So it's really important. And I'm happy that it's been around for so long and that I've had the chance to also collaborate with it. Yes, thank you guys.
Well, I love the fact that you're always so supportive, Tori. Of course, you're one of the family, and I do have a few more questions for you. So
Sure.
You've been doing the Metropolitan Culture Corner, sponsored by Hard Rock Cafe, for quite a while now. So what episode are we on this month?
This is the 50th episode. Can you believe that? Oh my God.
Okay, I thought that was the case. I didn't want to speak out of turn. So how do you pick up and coming artists? And are they always musicians, or do you also do painters? I know the answer, kinda, but I want to see how you pick people.
Well, the Metropolitan Culture Corner was and is a cool project. But I mean, by I meant it was just an idea that I thought would be interesting. I wasn't sure if it would actually work out, but you guys were kind enough to take a chance on this collaboration, which I really appreciate, because I really believe in the idea of supporting other creative people and other artists in whatever way that I can, because it just makes the world a better place, makes me feel good. And there's so many interesting, amazing people in the world, but especially in Barcelona, in my experience. And this started during the pandemic, where everybody was stuck at home, and it was like we were just starting to work on the idea of the project right before the pandemic. So we did like one in-person interview, and then it ended up being Zoom interviews. And it's been since March 2020, once a month. So now it's 50 episodes of all these really fascinating people. And it's not only musicians, it does end up being a lot of musicians, because those are the people who I know. And also because in the beginning I did some of these interviews in Spanish and then translated them with subtitles to English, but that honestly takes so much time. But and it's an English language magazine, so in the end I decided, no, it's got to be in English. With some of the people that I've chosen to interview, their English is good, but it's not great. So in those cases, I might send them the questions in advance so that they can prepare their answers. But generally speaking, the way I pick these people is I just try to find someone who I think has something interesting to share with the community, that I think people should know more about them. And some of these people are pretty famous, like Luca Perez from the Casa de Papel, the Money Heist show. He's an actor. Or Oscar Foronda. These people, he was in an episode of The Crown. People have seen them around the world, or documentary filmmakers, photographers, chefs. People I work with personally who nobody else really knows who they are, like the woman who does the dresses for my concerts, Felissa Williams, who's an incredible designer, but she's just not that well known. But then the guy who's in our 50th episode, which just came out today, Clarence Becker, is a soul singer. He's toured quite literally around the world multiple times with this nonprofit organization, Playing for Change. So I just try to find people who I think are interesting and who the community should know more about. The challenge is sometimes I find people who are incredible, but I can't interview them because it's the language barrier. So, I'm always searching and always trying to also expand beyond my own musical circle the best that I can. But sometimes it's just difficult because there'll be like the conductor for one of the opera houses here in town wanted to be interviewed, but I was like, do you think you could do it in English? And he's like, no. So we didn't, but maybe someday, some of my favorite interviews have been people who have nothing to do with music. Like Chase Jonesy is the founder of one of the ballet schools in town. I think it's called Ballet de Barcelona right now. I don't remember, but it's a ballet school that encourages really non-traditional types of dancers to be a part of their performances. People who are normally considered too old, too fat, too dark-skinned, too whatever. He's a gay man who tends to dance women's roles, like things that are super non-conventional, and they're an incredible ballet company. The guy who did all the set designs for the Liceo Opera, he's an incredible artist who does crazy things on a global scale, so just whoever I think has a story to tell. My friend Carlos Mendoza, who's a doctor, he's an immunologist, but he's also a Grammy-nominated rock star, from Venezuela, whose family still is there and is dealing with all the stuff going on now. So just people that I think, the Metropolitan audience will go, whoa,
Well, I was just earlier today at the in Plaza España, all the way at the top there, at a restaurant called Saluca.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a fascinating moment because, I have my little magazine here, and I was sitting across the table from a man who was talking about your interview with Karen from the Barcelona Women's Network, intimate friend of ours.
Yeah.
but they were talking about your interview there. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then they said, yeah, we know her. And we know her because you, at the person they were talking to at the next table said that they had seen your interview. Oh, shucks. Who was it? Somebody else. And I was like, oh, people are watching this stuff. They didn't know that I was associated with Metropolitan.
That's fantastic.
And what the heck was it? I don't know. And then earlier today, I was talking to one of our interns about about Luca, about in addition to people, doing interviews with us and playing, and you help to showcase them. We also want to give back to those people who have taken time to be interviewed, because they also have rich context and rich connections in the city. And sometimes they can recommend Metropolitan. So very selfishly, I'm looking to try to make sure that we add value to them. But, as you're doing this stuff at the European Museum of Modern Art and all the different places where you play, I'm also asked constantly, can Tori interview me? And I'm like, yeah, I have a bit of a role at Metropolitan, but this is Tori's call completely. So, it's always interesting to me to see who wants to be interviewed by you. And I kind of suggest them to you, and then you take the decision. Sometimes I wish you could do this more than once a month.
Yeah. Well, it takes people. I think people also don't understand how long it takes, because to be honest, it takes forever. Because the way we do it is for people who haven't seen it, it's a Zoom interview, kind of like this, and I record the raw interview, and then I chop it up and use the best parts. It usually ends up being about 20 minutes long, maybe a little longer, and put in some images of the person, but it takes hours and hours and hours and hours. So first of all, it's just time constraints, but also I like it to be specifically like cultural creators. Like, for example, Karen doesn't necessarily, she's one of the few people I've had on who doesn't like make something, like create a painting, create something. But what she does with the Barcelona Women's Network is some really interesting stuff. She does incredible charity work, and then her safari trips, and that she takes people on all over the world into Africa. And I mean, that's definitely part of the culture scene, So I try to make it people who have either strong ties or lived in Barcelona. Like, for example, only one woman who I've interviewed didn't live in Barcelona. She lives in London. She's Ukrainian, but she has a huge connection to Barcelona. She's here all the time. So somebody in the arts, somebody that's tied to Barcelona who I can do the interview in English. And I generally try to make it, someone who's the creator side of the art if possible. And people who have a long enough trajectory of their career that they can kind of give a bit of a retrospective. Not that I don't want to help people who are just starting out, because of course I do, which is why I ask most of these people, like, are there young artists in your field you'd recommend that we check out, But sometimes people will ask me, will you interview me? And they're like, a finance person. And I'm like, well, do you play guitar? Because that's not the point of the interview series. But you're always welcome to recommend people to me. I'm open-minded. It's just that I want to keep the focus on the creative people, because often like during the pandemic, art and music and movies is what kept us from going crazy. But then these people, most of them are really struggling, even the famous ones, to continue to make a living, especially since the pandemic, partly because of the way that the laws don't really protect creative people and freelancers in Spain. So like half these people I've interviewed are like, don't tell anybody, but it's like really hard to make a living. And they're famous people, I'm not speaking for anyone individually that I've mentioned, just in general. And that's another reason why it's important to me to get their name out there, get the word out there,
All right. Well, it's always great to have somebody like yourself and your relationship with Rolling Stone. And I remember I was kind of drowsy one day, just on the sofa, and, you're kind of in between slumber. And I was like, oh my gosh, Tori, is she in my house? And I look, and it's just Tara next to me. And Tara was watching, I don't know what series. And it's like, I know your voice, obviously. And I'm like, that's Tori Sparks. And I can't remember was it NCIS, or was it some movie that you were in, or that your music was in?
And it was in Criminal Minds in the US, and then which is kind of like NCIS. And then it was in Sky Rojo here in Spain, which of course Netflix is global. So there've been songs in different series. And there was this past year there's still a song that I sang on, and not my song, but that I was hired to do a session for some publicity, and I didn't know where the song was going to end up. And there was this ad that kept coming up on YouTube every time I tried to like get on YouTube, they make you watch a video, and it was this ad for ING Bank, and I didn't and the commercial was super irritating and I couldn't skip it. And I was like, I hate this commercial, damn, every time. And then I finally realized it was me. And I was like, oh. And
what song were you singing?
it was a cover of an Oasis song called Whatever. And it basically says I'm free to do whatever, to be whatever I want to be. And they put it when just an insider's look at what session work is like. Like they'll call you the day before and say, can you sing this song? And you come in and it's in the totally wrong key. So you're singing really high and you sound really bad, but then they mix it and they make you sound good. And then they put you in a commercial and you see it like a year later and you're like, did I get paid for that? That's the world of being a musician.
All right. So on Friday, we're going to see you. One question. Why is it so early? It's from 6 to 7:30.
I don't know. I don't think that's the best idea, honestly, but it's not up to me, you know. I think it would make more sense to have the show a bit later. But I guess because the museum's opening hours are until 8, so I guess what the thought is that they want people to have time to look around after, because the entry ticket includes a visit to the museum, a free drink sponsored by Estrella Damm, and the concert. So I would recommend to people that if they have time to come like at 5 or something, check out the museum and then see the show. But some people are working till then, right? So I don't know why it's so early, but yeah, we play promptly at 6, and they have let me know more than once that people who show up late after the show has started will not be allowed in. So if you're planning on coming, get there by 6, because otherwise I'll have to fight with the security guard, because I don't want people to be left out, you know.
I do. Okay. Brenna, sorry, I sometimes I co-opt and hijack people's interviews. Anything else you want to ask the wonderful Tori Sparks?
Just how can we hear more about you and your concerts?
Well, for better or for worse, all musicians everywhere pretty much are on the internets these days, right? So I have a website, which is my name, torisparks.com, and I put all the information there, which is why it's very funny when people write me like a WhatsApp at like 2 a.m., where's your show tomorrow? I'm like, dude, look on the website. So there's websites, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's YouTube, which we just posted a bunch of new live videos from this big concert we did back in March at Luz de Gas. And I'm saying that because I love you guys to see what the band looks like before you guys come and check us out on Friday if you want. They're good looking guys. So yeah, all the social media you can think of except for TikTok, because man, like I just don't have time to add one more to my list of things to do. But everywhere else in the world, all social media, of course, Spotify, Bandcamp, wherever you hear music. If people want to check us out there, we'd appreciate it, and come see us live if you can. And if you can't, we do tour in other countries. We tour in Germany, we tour in Italy. So if you guys are not in Barcelona, hopefully see you somewhere. Yeah.
All right. And my favorite question, am I going to be able to buy some more Tori Sparks merch?
Oh, you cut out there. Tori Sparks, what?
Merch.
Oh yeah, because in Barcelona most people don't drive around here, because I can drive, but it's difficult to get around the city in a car. So you come in in the metro. So yeah, I'll be like with the guitar, and like I always have a suitcase on wheels, and that's the merch. So we'll have merch for sure, vinyls and CDs and stuff. And I don't normally bring T-shirts to the concerts because you have to bring all the sizes, you know. But if somebody would like a T-shirt and they let me know in advance, of course I'm happy to put it in the wheelie cart and bring it along. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I don't have any more questions. Brenna, do you?
No.
No? Okay. Any last word that you want to share, Ms. Sparks? Ms. Chispa?
Well, Chispa, yeah. If you look at my website through Google Translate into Spanish, that's what it says my name is. It's like, no. No, just a couple things. Just that, first of all, I really appreciate the interview, and thank you, Metropolitan, for always supporting not only me, but just local culture in general. And I would like to encourage all the people who are the Metropolitan readers and watchers in this case that, of course, I'd love to see you on Friday the 9th at 6 at MEAM. That would be wonderful. If I don't see you there, it would be wonderful to see you somewhere else. But even if you look up my music and think, I really don't like Tori Sparks at all, then I really encourage you guys to please go see somebody, because Barcelona is full of so much talent. There are local record stores like Disco 100, like Revolver, like Surco and Gracia. And if you go to a concert, if you buy an album by an artist, that means more, as well as like financially, as well as just spiritually, personally. That means more, and it supports the artist so much more than listening to them on Spotify or whatever. So just I encourage everybody to actually participate in their local culture scene if they are a fan of a particular artist or a band. Like you don't know how much we all appreciate it. So of course, if that ends up being us, I won't be upset about that at all. But I just hope you guys continue to support the local art scene, because we really, for all that we being musicians look like rock stars on Instagram and stuff, you know, what keeps us alive is you guys. So thank you.
All right. Well, I'm excited. I got a bunch of friends coming to see you, and I want to party with you after 7:30. We're going to get crazy in a museum after watching Tori Sparks, getting all excited.
You're going to bring a flask?
I will bring my own flask, you know, with my diet drinks.
People always ask me, they say, is the guy with the hat coming to your show? That's you, man.
Can I wear my hat?
You may absolutely wear your hat, because, you know, it's like a marca de agua at this point. It's like your trademark kind of, you.
All right, sweetheart. Thank you so much. I love you, Tori. I want some more merch. I got some. You know, I have some of your merch. I want more merch, and keep producing this fantastic music and these really great videos that you're making. We love you, and we are super excited to see you on Friday.
Well, I really, really do appreciate it, and you and Tara and the whole Metropolitan family. And thank you guys, both of you, for taking the time. I really means a lot, because it's not like it's early. You guys are working past some people's bedtime, so really appreciate it a lot.
All right. Thank you so much, darling. Thank you, Brenna. And we are, I guess, going to say goodnight, and I'll see you on Friday. Tori Sparks.